Big ideas start with a spark. At Tassis, we use that spark to ignite the fire in ourselves and our kids. So with the trust we build and the knowledge we share, we can grow together and stand tall, creating opportunities to advance in business while setting an example for the next generation. Whether you are starting fresh in Portugal or expanding globally, we're here to support each other. This is more than a network. We are a community that sets the examples for the leaders of tomorrow. Join Tassis Paris business community and share your knowledge and insights. Scan the QR for more information. See you there.
Let's quickly do a 60-second intro to what you do and what kind of business are you in?
Okay, thank you, man. My name is Alexandre Lui. I'm from Brazil. We moved here to Portugal in 2015, and my background is in real estate in São Paulo. We used to invest there since 2007. And when we moved, we started small in Lisbon, buy small properties and to understand the market. And we keep investing, especially in Lisbon. So we have already 15 investments there. And back 2 years ago, we started spreading a little bit from Sesimbra to Cascais and Azeitão as well. So my market is real estate development.
My name is Pedro Coutinho. I'm one of the few Portuguese at Tassis, so I bring that angle of the local knowledge. My background is in investment banking, so very different to real estate. But about 10 years ago, I started a business, real estate business in Lisbon, focusing on the renovation of old buildings in Lisbon. So we started in 1st of January of 2015. And since then, we've been renovating a number of different types of buildings across Lisbon. So coming across all the different difficulties from licensing to tenancy laws that has been changing over time, to the construction and renovation obstacles that you often find in these projects.
You know, anybody who's here has actually done any real estate and actually done any renovations or building, I must admire you guys, because I don't know how you guys do it on a big scale. We're just talking small scale and we have the difficulties. So let's kind of dive deep into that, because you two guys are one of the only two people I know that are sort of doing bigger projects in Lisbon, in the heart of Lisbon. So what are some of the, like, why do you choose Lisbon? What do you see the opportunities and the potential in Lisbon in terms of right now in the marketplace in the next 2 to 3 years or even beyond?
Well, we discussed this at one of the panels of this month, and when I started, and we don't differ too much in terms of timing. The environment was very different. So Portugal was coming out of the 2011 bailout. There were austerity measures being put in place because of that. And so the government at the time had put together a number of very interesting measures to stimulate the economy and in particular to help the renovation of the city centers. And so it was a combination of things from tax incentives to licensing. They created a special path for renovations in city centers in terms of licensing that should be much faster than traditional licensing for new construction. We later found out it was not exactly the case, but it helped in certain. It has helped in certain cases. There was also a change in the tenancy law, all simultaneously, which facilitated the eviction of tenants, and the measures to attract foreign investment, the golden visas, the NHR. So it was a combination of factors at different levels. It was actually something that was well done, and that has helped the market at the time. And then, since then, a lot has changed. A lot of these measures have been reversed, creating additional difficulties. And I think that's over the next few years, it will be how the next government lead the way.
Okay. Alex, what do you think the potential challenges are now for developers, especially in Lisbon? Like, what are some of the obstacles that you have to overcome on a daily basis?
I think for us the problem is new developments, because Lisbon is an old city and you can only use what exists. So one land on another, but usually is an old building. And then the problem is that the tenants that he spoke, we still have old tenants that we cannot relocate if they don't want, and it's also limited. And the pricing of the buildings got so much high that you cannot make sense of the feasibility. But since we are like almost 10 years in this market, it's not that hard to find good opportunities, but it's a small market. Okay. So if a huge fund wants to invest a lot, it's very difficult. Like we see a lot of different investor wants to build like a hotel in Lisbon, and to find a good location, good building with a good size, it's almost impossible or too expensive. So you have these two problems.
What would your advice be in terms of like someone trying to invest right now to develop from a development point of view? What are the headwinds that you think? You mentioned a few. Like what do you see the headwinds are going to be for to get started? If you have no experience here in Portugal, had experience back in, say the United States or Brazil, coming here, it's going to be a different cultural, different, bureaucracy that you have to fight through. Like, what are the changes and challenges that someone has to overcome?
Well, what we both have done is starting small, starting with small investments where your mistakes don't cost you too much, and you can learn from them and then reinvest at a larger scale, but with the benefit of that additional knowledge. But of course, if you don't want to go through the whole path of learning, the best thing is to team up locally. I think that is.
Okay. We saw a lot of investors who wants to just buy a building, hire a constructor, and that's it.
Yeah.
And what we saw is that a lot of the bureaucracy in not only Lisbon, but in Portugal, it relies on the owner. So there is something that you cannot just hire. Yeah. And sometimes it's a lot of, you lose a lot if you don't know how to navigate. Right. That's why a local partner, of course, I think for the first comers, they are mandatory.
Let's talk about those. Like, who do you feel like, who are the key, local partners that you think are important if you're going to venture to do something like this? Like, what are some of yours, top 3 or that you think you need to partner up with?
Well, yeah, I think architects and lawyers, unfortunately, because of the local legislation and how critical it becomes, and how often it's not intuitive or logical the way it is structured. Yeah. So I think architects that help you navigate the municipalities' way of looking at new projects and how they view the licensing process and what you can and cannot do, and the risks that you will face, and then the lawyers and that will collaborate with the architects, and often with all the acquisition, sale, all of the bureaucratic aspect of these deals that you have to go through to actually have the end product available for sale to the client without any additional complications.
Yeah, I think anyone who signed a deed already saw how many documents you need to complete that stage. And for us, that developers you need even more to provide that documents. Right. So it's
pages and pages of documents.
Yes, it is.
I've never been to so many. I've never been to a settlement with 10 different people in the room just to sign a document. So go on that, Alex. I mean, what are I'm sure my assumption is that you haven't just hired one architect and one lawyer in your lifetime to do these projects. So what are some of the things that you look for when it comes to architects and lawyers that you know?
I think it depends on the size and the type of the project, because you have lawyers good for the daily things and the other ones that specialize in some other problems. And for the architects is the same. And we were talking in the last panel about how you need to be more, it's more personal here in Portugal. So depending on the city hall that you are applying your project, you need a different architect, for example. Wow. Because they have more connection, they know how to navigate, because most of the project, if it's not like a new construction, it can opens for interpretation. Like in Lisbon, this is the problem. Depends on the building. You can increase, depends on the street, on the neighbors, and that's something that's not black and white. And it's a negotiation with the city hall. You can put one more floor, but you are gonna respect something else. And it's a balance and a negotiation between the architect and the city hall. So it can be very complicated. For the foreigners that are used to like a very structured country, it's mind-blowing, because it's in the law that you can construct. But if the technician doesn't want it, you have an impasse. So
So it really comes down to the interpretation of the whatever the document is. Okay.
The things you don't know that you don't know.
That's right. That's right. That's Portugal. So listen, let's talk about finance. How do you, like, I know you guys differ, I think, a little bit in terms of financing for projects like this. You know, maybe you can start with you. How do you finance, or how do you navigate the financial markets and sort of?
I always structure the projects with equity and bank financing. I think bank financing here is very competitively priced, and even though banks can be slow and bureaucratic to take decisions and very rigid, but they offer very competitive bank financing. So, and I think we both do that. It's important to take advantage of the attractive financial costs of bank financing in Portugal. So I've been structuring deals with equity, which will probably go to the level of around 40-50% of the transaction, and then bank financing for the acquisition of the property, which in the case of in our case, when we're renovating, we can acquire the building with bank financing. If you're talking about land, it's probably not possible, but with an existing building, it is. And then you can finance probably up to 100% of the works on that building with bank financing too. So overall, you can get to a maximum of around 60% of overall investment to bank financing, which can be very interesting and can help you with the returns on the projects.
Yeah, because the interest rate is still very low from here, but we have to remember, like, I think 7 years ago, the banks were not allowed to give finance for acquisition, for example, and they were very restricted on the construction as well. But they changed a lot, and they value more the developer that has some history with them. And like I said, it's very personal here, and for the bank system, it is as well. Like in the beginning, I have one manager from the account. It was horrible. It was very difficult every single step of the way. And then once I changed for the nice, better manager in the same bank, it was totally different. So it depends on the person who are dealing with your process. Okay. And just extending a little bit, one thing that we did recently is open a fund, that is the SIC fund, that we can put all our developments and you don't pay the IRC inside the fund. And for resident, when you withdraw, is like 28%, and non-resident is 10%. So for my view, I think it's this best vehicle to invest in real estate now.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about that fund. Like in your opinion, in Lisbon, like the next 5-10 years, good market to get into? Do you feel like it's still underpriced? You know, they're still going up, or do you feel like it's steadying? What are your opinions on the market at the moment?
The phase of extreme growth, I think, is over now. But we keep finding good opportunities, and it's a small market. So Portugal being on the map in terms of being a safe country with a good climate, stable economy, a friendly environment to be in with the English-speaking people. Which is a bit different from Spain. Portugal has more capacity to attract a more international community. Spain is more focused on Latin America. That creates a market that has been very solid and at the same time resilient to all of these crises. So you see Northern Europe is real estate is suffering there, and suddenly you have Portugal and Spain with very healthy real estate markets, and I think that's a result of a combination of these things.
Okay. What are your opinions of the market?
But it's been crazy because we are a lot, like 10 years looking at the same market. But I'm always impressed year after year how the prices are getting there. Because back then, like we're talking about 5,000 to 6,000 per square meter, a good apartment. Mm-hmm. And now we can look at 16,000, 17,000 per square meter. Wow. Yeah, I know the offer is very, very limited. So we have just a few apartments that are very good. And Lisbon usually finds that client that are willing to pay. And if you compare, of course, with the other developed cities, you say, no, it's absurd. But it's a very small market. So you don't have like 1,000 apartments of that size. Yeah. You have 10, 20. So that's why offer and demands and the prices keep getting higher and higher.
All right, so last question. If you advise any people here to kind of get started, you know, what advice would you give? Or would it be like how to get, you know, to maybe even, what are some of the ways to invest in Lisbon? What are some of the options available? You can either answer one or the other.
Well, I think starting. I mean, it's obviously a full-time job, and if you're starting a business in real estate, it's going to be a career. But if you want to make one-off investments, I think the option of the fund is very interesting. It can be a fund with a specific theme, or it can be a fund that is diversified and more yielding, more focused on yield, for example. But the fund option, I think, is very interesting. Or otherwise, if you know specifically a developer that has a specific project that you like to co-invest in that project.
Okay, what were yours?
Same answer.
Same answer, yeah.
Same answer.
Okay.
Our marketing is our market is to have investors. So I did the normal way, that they are owners as well with me, and now with this fund structure. The only difference is that in the fund is much more tax efficient, but it's also very bureaucratic and everything, but it works. So that.
Do you both have funds available for people to invest?
Alex has.
I just opened a new one. Yeah. And it's for my investments, but I also open for close friends and investors. Yeah.
Great. Well, give them a round of applause, guys. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.